Happy Wednesday, friends, and welcome. We are back in the tavern. I should say I am back in the tavern this week, live on Patriot Academy's campus in Comfort, soon to be Constitution City, Texas. I have a young state rep sitting next to me that I'm going to introduce in just a minute, but great to see all of you. It is an honor and a privilege to get to do this. This is episode 41 of the Audit the Vote podcast, the best way you can support election integrity efforts in Pennsylvania, as well as Patriot Academy efforts all across the country, is to like this video, share it with all of your friends, and subscribe to whatever platform we're on. I'm not asking you to give me money. I'm not asking for your time. I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to this video so that we can get the word out. So thank you so much for our supporters. I am so excited to share Elias Coop Gonzalez with my audience. We're going to learn together about his background because I've known Elias for a while here. He's a Patriot Academy graduate, which means he went through our legislative simulation event. That's why I'm down here this week. We're hosting a legislative simulation experience for the Constitution coaches like myself, as well as military veterans. And Elias went through that, I believe, prior to getting elected. He's actually a representative in the House of Delegates of the state of West Virginia. So he's kind of, in my mind, the poster child for how we fix the country as we get young folks like him educated on the Constitution and the LIFT principles, and then they run for office. And so I couldn't be more excited, Elias, to have you with me and to get to interview him a little bit. We have a mic situation where we're going to have to share this one. So I'm going to, as I ask him questions, just kind of swing it over the other direction, and we'll just go ahead and have a conversation. Can you say hi to everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hi, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course, absolutely. Okay, so I will get good at this at some point. So tell me, Elias, your Patriot Academy experience. I know you were a leadership Congress grad. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I want you to share with my audience your Patriot Academy experience, and we have like an hour, so we've got some time.
Yeah. So originally just giving a little bit more of my background, just leading up to Patriot Academy. I was born and raised in Guatemala. My dad is an American and my mom's Guatemalan. And from birth, I was a citizen through him, and I always paid attention to American politics, even though I was out there. But when I was 12, my parents unfortunately separated, and I decided to go to the United States with my dad. And I lived in California for about a year, and then moved to West Virginia after that. And so whenever I meet a new group of people, especially when I came to West Virginia, I would tell them about living in Guatemala and then California, and saying I have a lot of experience living in third world countries. And I typically, I always get a cheap laugh out of that one. Like it's a very reliable line. And then I went to public school for like 2 years, and that really opened my eyes to just how broken that system is, and how horrible, and how so many kids are just trapped in it. So many kids that have incredible potential and want to do great things end up not succeeding because of it. And honestly, we could have a very long podcast just about that. So I'll leave that for another time.
Or we could rabbit trail down it. We'll see where.
Yeah, we could rabbit trail down. You know, that it's all interconnected. And after middle school, my dad put me in a private Christian school. In relation to most private Christian schools, it probably wasn't the best one, but it's still better than public school. I didn't really feel like I connected very well with many of my fellow students. They didn't really care about the same things that I cared about. None of them ever said anything about politics, which to me was weird, but looking back, I think I was the weird one.
They were just checked out.
Yeah, they're checked out. That's true. Yeah, most people are just checked out.
And legal immigrants like you and your family understand the value, so you're not checked out.
Yeah. So I paid attention, and my dad has always been well read on politics and keeps a close eye on what's going on. So when I was like 15, my dad was listening to American Family Radio. They're run by the American Family Association, and they're one of the partners of Patriot Academy. They were running ads on the radio about this new young person's course, and it happened in Texas. And my dad told me about it several times. I wasn't really interested in it. I remember at the time I'd been watching some action movies, particularly like James Bond, and I just wanted to. I was saving my lifeguard money at the time, and I just wanted an excuse to buy a suit. It would have been too vain to just buy a suit for having a suit. And so one time my dad was trying to convince me of it again. And he said, "Oh, by the way, you're required to wear a suit the whole time." And I was like, amazing, amazing. So I went and
how old were you at this point?
I was 15.
What
I was 15.
15-year-old kids?
I
That's
just
amazing.
I just thought it's cool. I just wanted to wear. I wanted to find a real excuse to go wear a suit and look cool in it. And if you look at my pictures back then, I did not wear that suit properly. Everything was too long. My tie was like really wide, but I loved wearing the suit. And so I went to Patriot Academy in Delaware and Texas, both in 2018, 2019. It's an incredible experience. Very thankful for Nicole Tice, who runs the Delaware Patriot Academy. Very first exposure I had
Let me stop you.
to PA.
Give a 60-second, what did you go to in Delaware? What was it that you went to?
So they have the main Patriot Academy course in Texas every year, but they have smaller regional ones throughout the country. And so I went to the Delaware State Capitol and essentially was given the experience of being a legislator. Not many people get, kids or adults.
So did you have to write a bill? Like, what did you have to do?
So I wrote a bill. I was assigned to a committee. I attended a bunch of committee meetings.
What was your first bill? What did you do?
I don't remember what my first bill was. I've done Patriot Academy more than half a dozen times at this point, and I don't remember what my first bill was. I think it had something to do with the military or repealing the NFA or something like that. Yeah.
And so there's prep work going into it, though. Don't you have to write the bill beforehand and you prepare? So there's a process they don't just accept anybody, although it's open to the public, but there is a selection process that you
it is open to everybody, but they want to make sure that they get quality people in. And that's something that I think Patriot Academy excels at, is just getting the best people in a room and then having each one of us sharpen each other. So I remember very specifically, before going to my first Patriot Academy, they had a list of materials that they wanted me to read going in there.
Really?
So,
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah. And to my knowledge, they still do that. Yeah.
I was trial by fire. I put thousands of people with a good friend of mine. We did it together for a bunch of classes. And when Rick hired me, there was I think he said, send me a resume, but I don't even know if I ever gave it to him. So
you're already very qualified.
Apparently.
Just hire her.
All right. So the process, you went through the process, Patriot Academy. And if you guys that are listening can't hear me, I know this mic, I feel like if I just yell that direction, it's a directional mic rather than us pass it back and forth. But we'll see how it goes. If you can't hear me, let me know. I really want you to hear from him anyway. I'm just asking him questions. When you went down there, in addition to the legislative simulation where you get to see how our laws are made, what else did you learn? Communication? Like what else happened?
Yeah, it was definitely very well-rounded. So you learn about the procedure of being in the legislature, and that's a whole different world in and of itself. And it's unlike anything in the private sector, because you go by these rules that are very specific to the legislative process. But you also learn about communications, working with other people. One of the things that I took away from Patriot Academy that helped me as a legislator in real life is the very in-depth philosophical training that they provide. I mean, they bring really the best people in the country to talk about American civics. There's really nobody that can top David Barton when it comes to talking about early America, the Revolutionary War, the Constitution. And this is the guy that was training us. This is the person that I was blessed to listen to before I went into office. And I'm so incredibly thankful for that.
Thank you for describing that, because a lot of people, they say Patriot Academy means many things depending on what area you first found it, whether it was you took constitutional defense class, which we'll get into, or you took one of my constitution classes, or like you actually went to one of the state capitals where they run the legislative simulation. So thank you for expounding on that. Keep going with your story. James Bond, excited to wear a suit. Take us from there to how you ended up a state delegate.
Yeah. So I ended up going to Patriot Academy, like I said, 2018, 2019. Then COVID happened, and of course, the whole world was very disoriented. At that time, I decided to go intern for my congressman on Capitol Hill, Alex Mooney, who's very good conservative, member of the Freedom Caucus, and incredible mentor to me. And I'm still very close to him today. I interned for him in the fall of 2020, and then spring of 2021, I got connected with the Leadership Institute, and they decided to bring me on as an intern there. So I was like, hey, why not? After my internship concluded, they were very happy with me. They liked me enough to hire me out of my internship, and I became the president's assistant. So I worked directly with Morton Blackwell, and I was his assistant for about 8 months, and that was an incredible time. He's probably the most influential person to me in my adult life, and there's so much to learn from that man. He was a special assistant to Ronald Reagan, and he also knows about Patriot Academy. Has only great things to say about a PA.
Okay, wait. So
yeah.
we are going to have to do this because they can't my mic. All right, we're going to have to go back and forth. So hold on a second. You said the president. I assume that didn't mean of the United States, but back up and tell that again because I was distracted a little bit.
Yeah, so I was a special assistant to the president of Leadership Institute. Yeah.
Okay. Leadership Institute. Got it. Okay. So wow, did you go to college?
Yeah, so I did my classes through Liberty Online. Eventually I went to Liberty in person and spent a little bit of time there just so I could have the experience, but it was mostly online. So yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in business administration.
Okay. Very good. What made you then decide to run for the House of Delegates in West Virginia? Because I would have never, my story is that COVID woke me up. Like I just spoke today to the coaches about, it was like the ALS ice bucket challenge. Do you remember that? That was my wake up experience, except I didn't know the bucket was coming. It was just like that instantaneous. I would not be here, or I certainly wouldn't have ran for anything if it wasn't for that. But you had a propensity for that. How did you go from business degree, Patriot Academy to, I think I'm going to run for office?
Well, I think bringing up school is a perfect segue because that was really the impetus. So Leadership Institute, their mission is to train conservatives to win in the public policy process. That's their mission. So having worked for that organization for a year, I got to learn a lot about that. And towards the end of 2021, I was really struggling to do online classes and full-time work. I just wasn't able to handle it. I was doing way too much. And I made the decision to go back to West Virginia and just take it easy and focus on my studies. At that time, I had been called a few times by my state senator who asked me to run, and I said unequivocally no several times. But I moved back to West Virginia. The filing period was open, and I found out that no Republican wanted to run against our incumbent leftist Democrat state rep.
Wait a second. It's West Virginia. You have crazy leftist Democrats in West Virginia?
Yeah. Yeah. He was, I mean, we have less of them now because I took one of them out. But he was very, very far left. He had the LGBT flag right on his desk in the House floor. That was his main thing. He's a homosexual, quote unquote, married to a man. That was really the biggest part of his identity. He was also a public school teacher. And no Republican wanted to stand up to run against him. So I figured, hey, I'm in college and I wouldn't have much to lose. And I can't ask someone else to do something I wouldn't do myself. So I went ahead, I filed the paperwork, I ran, and I took that experience from Leadership Institute, from the campaign side. A lot of people don't understand that to be a good legislator, you need to be a good campaigner, but also be good at governing. So for governing, what you need to do to be effective is having good principles and being able to work with other people. To be a good campaigner, you just have to have the right technical skills and put in the work. And those are two different things. So through the experience I had at Leadership Institute, having the skills to run a campaign and then having the principles that I learned at Patriot Academy, that was just a perfect blend to go into the legislature. And another thing I didn't mention is that state rep that I ran against was also my neighbor from directly across the street. Not like three houses down to the left, like literally our houses are like like this. And he watched me grow up. I moved to the house when I was like 14. And so as soon as, I became an adult, I ran for office and beat him out of his seat. And he's not been happy ever since.
Okay. So that, because you experienced opposition, which we're going to talk about the Constitution City, Texas down here is starting to get some attention in the press. And there was, I don't know if you even call it a hit piece. The more I read it, that we got some press on what we're doing down here. So we're going to dive into that. But when you're, especially I think young, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to handle. You don't want people to not believe things, or the media to say something that's not true, and then it goes out to a massive amount of people. I've experienced that. I think anybody, Rick Green, certainly, I'm sure before, even now, has a ton of that. What was that like? I can't believe you did this. He was across the street. In your own neighborhood, you're putting yourself in a really awkward position. That's pretty courageous. Tell us a little bit about that.
To be honest, I saw something that needed to be done, and I knew that somebody needed to stand up and make it happen. So I went ahead and did it. And it is difficult going out to the public light, I think, particularly for younger people, just having to deal with all of that negative feedback. And one of the things that I really don't like about politics, there's people who disagree with you on certain things, but they're still friends with you. They'll work with you, but once you run for office, that all changes. They throw all the good friendship that they have with you behind them, and then they start bashing you on social media. I'm sure you've experienced that multiple times. And I would just remember the young people in early America and what they went through. And I learned about those people mainly through Patriot Academy. And I thought about all the young men that conquered countries, 70, 80 years ago. They went through a lot more than I did, infinitely more. I can tolerate some negative comments on Facebook, or a lot of negative comments on Facebook. The young men from 80, 90, 100 years ago, they paid a much bigger price to serve our country.
Sure did. Okay, so I asked off camera. Tristan told me not to ask you this because he wanted my legit reaction actually on camera. I'm going to make a guess based on what you told me that he's 25-ish. I want to know how old you were when you ran for the House of Delegates and got elected.
I was 19 when I ran, and I got elected at 20.
What? Elected to the House of Delegates at 20 years old? Are you serious? Oh my gosh. And so if you got elected in 2019, was I dead on? Are you 25?
I'm 23.
He's 23 years old. If this doesn't give you hope for the next generation, I don't know what would. They exist. People out there, the remnant exists. Here it is. Thank you. This is so cool. All right. You run for office. You get elected at 21 years old. 20 years old? 21?
20.
20 years old. What did you notice that you knew more than the legislators that had been there for a while because you went through the legislative simulation? Mm-hmm. And what was that shakeup? I'm just picturing if I was in there and somebody came in and they're a freshman legislator, but they clearly get parliamentary process. They clearly get how everything works. I'd be intimidated. So what was that like?
Yeah. I would say that my experience at Patriot Academy directly transferred over to real life legislative work, just because the structure you have in the legislature is it's so different from anything else. I mean, what other prior experience would tell you, oh, this is how you work in a committee, and then you need to talk to your chairman about running this bill. Oh, and by the way, there's these, idiosyncratic rules that you have to adhere to, and you have to talk to the speaker. I already did all of that. Yep. And so when I showed up, I knew I more or less had an idea of where to go, who to talk to. Whereas a lot of other members, they're just like, this is alien. This is the first time I've ever done anything remotely like this.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that, maybe we can just do that back and forth. Is that good?
Oh, yeah, just
like that. Instead of playing with this arm. So now I forget what I was going to ask you. What were we talking about? Members.
We were talking about transferring Patriot Academy experience into the legislature.
into the legislature and the reps not. Let me see. What were we? I totally lost my train of thought. Not having that experience beforehand. Well, this was a comment. It'll come to me eventually. I mean, so in Pennsylvania, we elected John Fetterman. Dear God help us. Mr. Potato Head, I affectionately call Mr. Potato Head, who actually is turning out to be relatively conservative on a lot of issues, which is surprising. But I wonder about his agenda, whether he's doing that for ulterior motives because he wants to appeal more broadly to the middle so he can further his political career. So there's that. But Senator Dave McCormick, who ran in Pennsylvania and also got elected, which is giving us a majority in the Senate. And I'm thankful for that, which is why I voted for him. I'm not a huge fan. I can't imagine the guy's super wealthy, hedge fund, tons of money. I can't imagine he has the first clue about how to pass legislation, especially in the U.S. Congress. I knew it would come back eventually. So the swamp, so to speak, the deep state, in my opinion, exists because people go in there uneducated about the process. So it's much easier for the GOP, the party, whatever, to co-opt those people and be like, oh no, here's how we're going to help you and we're going to guide you through. Here's your guy that's going to write your legislation. Our reps in Pennsylvania don't even write the bills. They have someone that writes it for them. And I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not. That's something we can maybe unpack. Like, do you write your own bills? Do you have people that do it? But my real question that I want to get to is, do you agree with my assessment that that's how the swamp happens because young people or anybody goes into office not understanding the process? But if they understand it, they're less likely to get pulled in. What's your weigh in on that?
My opinion would be not necessarily because, well, I mean, you have certain people that say worked on the Hill for a while and then they go back to, wherever they're from. They decide to run for office. They know the structure and the process very well, but they end up not being very good legislators. I think it comes down to having the right principles, but even that's not enough. I think what I'm about to say is going to be maybe a little bit surprising to your audience and to the PA community, but I understood the process pretty well and I had the right principles, but at least in my first 2 years, I still wasn't being very effective. And I think ultimately the reason why is because I was pretty arrogant, to be honest. I was arrogant. I didn't really. I always thought, hey, I'm right about this. I don't need to, listen to anyone else's opinions. And yeah, maybe I was right about a lot of things, but learning how to work with people is a very, very important skill. And so if you want to actually get things done in the legislature, you have to build those relationships, but also understand that you will, at the end of the day, stand for your principles. And that's the best way to get other people to understand why you push for these things. And this past legislative session, my third one, I accomplished more than I did in my first two. I saved several key bills, passed my own ones. And so you have to understand the process and have the right principles to be effective, but you also have to be humble. You have to understand the right aspects of leadership and just work with people.
That is so clutch. So I guess what I'm hearing you now say is it's not so much the process, although that's valuable. It's more how you interact with people and how they're wired, which is ironic that this week we're launching, I didn't even mention, I just spit on the desk. Isn't that great? We're launching Lead With Your Strengths, I'm calling it a survival guide for grassroots patriots. I don't think you were there earlier to get to hear my presentation on that. Rick called me. I came down for the Patriot Intensive in the summer. Do you know about that at all?
Not as much.
Not as much.
Wait, rewind. What books did you read that gave you some illumination onto how important relationships are to get what you need done?
Perfect. So what my co-host, I guess we'll call him, who's off camera, asked him is what books did he read? Because my co-host actually mentored Elias along the way. What books did he read that gave him the skills that he just talked about working with people?
Yeah, there's a number of them. One of them is a really short little book. It's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Really, really neat little book. And you could probably get it for $10 at Barnes & Noble. That's what I did. But I I had to look at myself and assess what I was doing and whether I was really being effective. And I realized that I wasn't being as effective as I could be. And I could be a lot more humble. And that's not to say that young people can't be good legislators, because they can. I'm just saying that I'm not the best example. There's like Josh Holstein in West Virginia, a really young guy, got elected at 19, very humble, very old soul, and generally pretty conservative. I like Josh a lot. I think the next generation of young Patriot Academy legislators, they're going to be so much more advanced than I am, because they have all these incredible resources and mentors. They're going to do so well.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much in its infancy stage. That's why I wanted to get some context on how you found Patriot Academy, because in 2018, 2019, the coach program, I think, was relatively new. There were the classes, Rick Green, the DVDs, the material that if you've been through my Constitutional Live or Biblical Citizenship or soon to be Rebuilding Liberty class, you've seen the actual course itself, and that's been on a DVD for a while. Rick cut those back in between 2011, I think, and 2014. So you could view that material, but the program that you as an average person or you could go out and actually host a class, I think was just coming aboard around 2018, 2019. So Patriot Academy's main product at the time, and still really is a main product for them, was the legislative simulation. And I think what you're alluding to is there's so many more resources. They've grown that entire program, legislative simulation, the Constitution Coach program, in terms of resources. In fact, my other coworker right now, Scarlett Lanny, she's over in the House chamber on the campus teaching people that came for this week's legislative simulation how to use a curriculum for Constitution Day, which September 17th, if you don't know. And I have, by the way, Tristan, a killer sweatshirt that is like founding father silly. Do you remember that? Yeah. I can't remember if I showed it to you or not. So we'll figure something out cool to do on Constitution Day. September 17th, any school that takes federal money, there's a law that was passed a long time ago that if they take federal funding, they're required on September 17th to teach the Constitution. 90% of public schools right now don't do it, and it's because they don't even know it's a law. So my coworkers over there educating the military veterans and the coaches of how to get into the school. And once you get in there, what do you present to talk about Constitution Day? So when he's talking about all these resources, I'm assuming that's what you mean, is there's so many more things, plus constitutional defense, which, by the way, sneak peek, next week, you need to come back, same time, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be interviewing the director of constitutional defense here at Patriot Academy. His name is Aaron Marshall. He's completely opposite of me. He is so even keel, but he's the range master that runs all the gun courses, handgun defense courses, rifle courses. They're doing specialty things for more avid gun owners that, not like me, they don't come down here. Of course, if you're terrified of shooting guns or terrified of weapons, come on down to the Patriot Academy campus. 2 years ago, I took constitutional defense for the first time, and I was jumping on the line when the gun was firing off. Elias, you just see me. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so scared. 4 days later, I was having a blast. I came back with my husband this year for constitutional defense, so they've got that whole program. You've taken that twice. You told me off camera that you've taken that twice, but back to your point, swinging this back, it has broadened quite a bit since 2018, 2019. I would argue that the pandemic really ignited that. Because the coach program, when I first signed up to host classes, was maybe 1,000 people. And now we're just under 31,000 people nationwide that have, isn't that,
that number yet.
That's isn't that crazy? So it exploded because people recognized with COVID that something is wrong. And Rick, and I'm sure David Barton and Wall Builders were getting inundated with questions about, can the government do this? Can they shut down the churches? Can they tell us our businesses aren't essential? And so Patriot Academy has exploded since then. And obviously here we are on the campus. Is this your first? No, this can't be your first time on the campus. Is this your first time?
No, it's my second time.
Okay.
Second time here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what else? Let me think what we can. Tristan, if you have any other questions you think would be good, because I do want to ask them about most of my audience are Pennsylvanians, specifically very passionate about election integrity, but I'm sure we get people from all over the place too. What is going on right now in West Virginia, and what have you learned at Patriot Academy? You mentioned that you struggled because arrogance. First of all, 23-year-old kid, 23, 25.
Currently?
Yes.
23.
23. Got it. 23-year-old kid willing to admit that he was arrogant and he's now humble. He's single, ladies. Just saying. Just saying. My daughter's a little bit too young. She's only 14, but and you have to come through us. Tristan and I, we like totally vet. You have to come through us. So you're not, you know, just gonna reach out to him and date him. But he is on the market, just letting you know. And I did it again, Elias. What was I saying? We were going to talk about West Virginia. Okay, legislation. So what are some of the issues in West Virginia right now that are hot topics? And what you talked about, you passed some bills, you're able to get stuff done. What have you been able to get done?
Yeah. And just to give a little background there, like my first couple years, I always looked at the cool people in Congress that I liked, and I thought, oh, I should be like them. I realized that you have to have different types of legislators, right? You're gonna have that one that's fiery, you know, and throws grenades out there. You're gonna have the one that can work with people really well. You're gonna have newer people who've been there for a while. I find I'm not really as loud as many others. That's just personally how I operate. But I do like to work things very extensively. So my first two years didn't pass a bill, just passed one amendment. But when I humbled myself and didn't care about, you know, who gets the credit for anything, just want to work and do the best thing that I could for my people, and just be thankful to God for putting me in the position that he put me in. And I introduced a landmark Second Amendment bill, which tightened up a loophole in a federal bill, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And I partnered up with a big YouTuber, James Reeves. He makes videos for TFB TV. That's one of the biggest gun YouTube channels. Now Tennessee and Montana picked up my bill and passed it. So we're gonna protect gun manufacturers.
Wait a second. So what was the problem then? What was going on in that space that made you write the bill? What was the loophole? You talked about the federal loophole. What was that?
It's slightly a complex bill, but the crux of it is there are activist judges, particularly in the Northeast, that are interpreting laws very broadly to allow civil lawsuits to proceed against gun manufacturers. And then they slap these exorbitant fines. For Remington and Bushmaster, $70 million in a case in 2012, put them out of business. So now the same plaintiff firm that did that to those gun manufacturers is going after Daniel Defense after the Uvalde shooting here in Texas. They're trying to put Daniel Defense out of business. So the federal government hasn't fixed this by just tightening it up and not leaving these activist judges any wiggle room to put their interpretations in there. So West Virginia was the first state to close that loophole. Now, I think several Republican states are going to follow and pass this. I'm currently trying to get this introduced at the federal level, so I'll have to check back with you guys at some point. But this would be a major accomplishment protecting our gun manufacturers. Marty Daniel, the CEO or the former president of Daniel Defense and the founder, actually flew to West Virginia from Black Creek, Georgia, and testified for my bill in committee, which was a super cool thing.
Which, speaking of, because I know my audience, what a lot of us, I didn't even know what that meant before. You can testify for a bill. What does that mean? I just got all angry that they stole the 2020 election and said we have to do something. But what I didn't know is that we it's in fact our duty as citizens to build relationships with your reps, find out what legislation they're pushing. And then if it's something that you can testify, you can either support them, or if there's ones that are coming through that are not good, you can go and testify against the bills. So that's just teaching point for my audience, because they're probably like, wait, what does that even mean? Anyway, the gun manufacturer, the next question I wanted to ask you is the reason that the Uvalde shooting, are they going after the manufacturer of the weapon? They're saying that the guy that made it is the bad guy?
Yeah. Essentially, that's what they're trying to do. Instead of punishing criminals, they want to go after law-abiding companies. And the way that they're doing that is by saying negligent marketing practices are the cause of these shootings, because maybe one of these individuals, one of these criminals, saw the gun in an ad, and therefore it's very irresponsible of these gun manufacturers to have advertisements, and that's what caused the shooting. I mean, that's a really far stretch, but that's what they're using, and they put 2 major gun manufacturers out of business, and they're trying to do the same with Daniel Defense.
Wow. Education is key. The fix is local. That's something I say all the time. I feel like that's a perfect example. Someone, Liberty Lion, good to see you. He's in the chat saying, wait, there's cool people in Congress?
Mm-hmm.
That's news to me. There's a few, I would argue, there's a few, they're just highly outnumbered. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would name several, like Eli Crane, incredible congressman. The first time I was ever able to go on the House floor, really in the gallery, I watched them vote on several bills, and there would always be like 10 to 15 names, always like no. And Eli Crane was one of them. Tim Burchett, also a really solid congressman. Tim Burchett is from Tennessee. I think Eli Crane is from Arizona, but that guy is very solid, very conservative. This one might be a little more controversial, but I was a fan of Matt Gaetz when he was still in there. We have Mike Johnson because of Matt Gaetz. Yeah.
But you can't. Here's the thing. We also learn it's about the principles and the process. It's not about the people, because we're all sin. We've all fallen short. Rick teaches this and does a masterful job at it. Every politician at some point is going to disappoint you. I don't want to choose the lesser of 2 evils. Well, that's the nature of the fallen world we live in. That's impossible to not pick the lesser of 2 evils. So you say Matt Gaetz, has he done stuff that I think are questionable? Yeah. Do I wonder if he's got like a facelift or tans a little bit too much? Yeah. But he also was one of the few to stand up in favor of the January 6th defendants, which not too many people have done in Congress. Specifically, I don't know if you met Sarah Maccabee, or do you know Sarah? Does that name ring any bells to you?
It sounds familiar.
Her husband Colton was the sheriff of January 6th. She was here last year for Coach Congress. She's from Tennessee. Her husband was helping Roseanne Boylan, who was killed in the tunnel on January 6th, and he got slapped with 6 felony counts of assault because every time he picked up the officer, because he was trying to help him. And of course it was, orchestrated against all of us, at least we believe. And so she came here. She was dragged here by Joey Lynn. Do you know Joey Lynn Maceros? That's, dude, we got to introduce him around. Yeah, we have work to do. These are totally got it. These are our top people, our Republic defenders, kind of our top people that are out there like you, that just to get connected with. But anyway, so her husband was locked in prison from 2021 up until Trump pardoned him for essentially helping a girl that the Metropolitan Police were trying to kill. And Matt Gaetz came alongside her and got her in front of Congress to testify on behalf of her husband. So between that and some of the other things he's done, I'm a fan. Not going to always agree with everything he's done, but I really appreciate that he stood up for the J6ers. Let's pivot into, if you have any, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She takes a lot of heat too. A lot of people, oh, she's not good. She's this, she's that. This is my experience in my journey, is we can't judge them by any one decision they make, good, bad, indifferent. You have to look at the specific issue, ask questions, context around why they voted the way they did. It's not fair to criticize them based on one. So MTG for me, I mean, I like a lot of what she's done. I hear the criticism. I don't know. Jury's out. What do you think about her?
I think she's a little crazy, but crazy in a good way. Yeah. You need some of those, that good crazy in the group. She's definitely the lady that, she'll stand up and just yell what everyone else is thinking. And you do need some of those people in the legislative body, whether it's Congress or at the state level.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. I know this week in the headlines, we're definitely going to cover at least 2 other things. I'm watching the clock, cognizant of time. And if you have questions, yes, they are all human. Exactly. Just like us, they're human. So stick them in the chat and we'll get to those before we wrap things up. The big news this week is President Trump declaring that DC is done with the crime. We're going to get rid of everybody that's just, I don't know, homeless, like whatever's going on in DC. He's cracking down on it. And I've heard every opinion under the sun, and I like to learn before I develop my opinion. So I don't really have one on this specific issue. I think if you break the law and you're a criminal, you should be punished. And if you're innocent, you should not be. But what is because you've got a different perspective than most of the people watching. What's your opinion? Talk about what's going on with that specific order in DC, and what's your opinion?
Well, I'm definitely glad that this is happening, because DC, I mean, it's been a bad situation for a while, but it's gotten worse in the past few years. I remember when I was in DC, and I would drive around there in my car, and occasionally I would see these biker gangs just go around DC. It would be a bunch of like military age males riding like dirt bikes and four-wheelers, just like a dozen or 24 of them, just in this group, and go around and just run red lights and kind of do whatever they want. And I thought that was astounding to me. In the capital of the greatest country in the world, that's just allowed. Recently, there was a congressional intern that was tragically murdered. Apparently, he was killed by someone who wanted to kill someone else, but he got caught in crossfire, something along those lines. Just all kinds of horrible things have been happening in DC. So I'm very happy that President Trump is stepping in, and he's going to make DC safe again, great again, clean again.
All the agains.
All the agains.
Make elections great again, make America great again, all the agains. Yeah, I'm trying to think the criticism that I saw from the people on the right are saying something like, do we want the federal, is he within his jurisdiction? Does he have, because what we've seen the COVID crackdown since 2020 is we're learning how much the rights the states have. And the objective is for the federal government to stick to the 17 things that the Constitution gave them the authority to do. And if the state does it well, we don't want the feds involved. So I've seen some questions online from people that are saying, do we want the feds to step in this particular instance? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. DC is not a state. All right. DC was created as a special district for the federal government, and the federal government is entirely within its scope to regulate how DC is run. That's just how it is.
So the answer is he's within his jurisdictional lines. He's not stepping out. Well, that's because that was why I wasn't developing an opinion until I got the answer to that. We're going to pivot into one more thing, and then Elias, if there's something on your heart, I'm very, as you can tell, just like led by what I believe is the Holy Spirit, and then like just have a conversation. I don't really have an agenda a lot of the time for these. I was so thrilled just to have him. I know I didn't do a ton of promotion for this week's podcast. I usually do because I have guests lined up that I've worked to get here. I knew coming down here, this could go multiple ways. I was going to maybe do a tour of the campus tonight, or of course, if I could have wrangled Rick, we got to get an air tag on Rick Green. I think that's my next mission. If I could have wrangled him, I would have wanted to interview him. I could have interviewed coaches and Joey Lynn, and just the chaos of today in a good way. I grabbed Tristan and said, hey, let's do a podcast. He's a professional jiu-jitsu fighter, successful entrepreneur, and is also one of my colleagues now at Patriot Academy. I thought him sharing his story would be kind of cool. He suggested, why not Elias? I'm like, oh, better yet. So thank you, Tristan, for just like stepping out of the spotlight. And so that's how we kind of ended up here. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. Share this. That's how you get your algorithm to move up. That's how you get more eyeballs on your content, is by sharing stuff that you like. So please do share this out as far and wide as possible, especially if you're in West Virginia. So more young people know about this young man. So today we are at Constitution City, Texas, on the Patriot Academy campus, and someone early this morning sends me an article that is a hit piece. Well, maybe not a total hit piece, but Joel, go ahead and pull that article up, and I'm going to read it, because something that have you dealt with, a better question is, have you dealt with negative press? Have you dealt with negative press, and how have you handled that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I've dealt with my fair share of negative press, especially when it comes to standing up for biblical values and the Constitution. I introduced the bill in West Virginia to put the 10 Commandments in every classroom, and boy, I received all kinds of stuff, not even from just in West Virginia. I mean, I got negative feedback from people outside of my state, all over the place. But yeah,
just for putting the 10 Commandments, which I get people that aren't Christians think, well, that's, you're only about that religion, but the 10 commandments are pretty like just standard for how to have a civil society that functions well. Like no murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. Those are just kind of basic standards. I will never understand how people aren't okay with having those basic standards of civil society displayed in our government buildings. But you're telling me you passed that legislation in West Virginia?
Unfortunately, I did not, because our leadership is not in favor of that. Maybe someday we can pass that. I know our wonderful state senator from Wood County in West Virginia, Mike Azinger, passed the In God We Trust bill. So we're going to put In God We Trust in all the classrooms, which is awesome. He's also a big Wall Builders fan, knows Rick. Someday we'll get there. Patriot Academy grad, also in her mid-20s, first session, Alyssa Brown, she passed that bill in Arkansas. So just going to give her a plug there.
Sweet. Yeah. I'd love to interview her too. So let's get me connected with her because I want to hear about what she's doing.
She doesn't reply to most of my texts, so I don't know.
Got it. We got to air. We got to air tag too. She's another one we got to
tag. She's hard to get a hold of.
She's hard to get hold of. We're going to stick an air tag on her. Oh, so cool. And we at Patriot Academy, we believe that is the way forward. This is the way to impact the culture, is to get godly principles. And you could disagree with them, by the way. You can reject the Bible, like that's fine, but you should at least read it and know what you're rejecting. And until I became a Christian in my early 20s, I didn't read the Bible. So I didn't even know what it said. How can you reject something you don't even know what is in book? So, but that's that. Joel's got the article, Far Right Wing. Check this out. Far Right Training Camp wants to become Texas's newest city. We're a far right training camp.
It's great press.
It's great press. Yeah. So you read through it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. The controversial camp has been criticized over its Christian nationalism agenda. I love how they try to paint Christian nationalism, I don't love them being sarcastic, as a bad thing. Like, they obviously haven't read the book. Elias, how do you handle the Christian nationalist stereotype? How do you, if someone comes at you with that, how do you handle that?
One of the things that I'd like to bring up is that our founding fathers, when they came together and founded our country, they were very intentional about their Christian identity, not just personally, but civically. There's all kinds of examples that you can list of our founding fathers doing that. There was a study conducted in the 1980s that reviewed all of the sources for the debates leading up to putting the Constitution together. They found that 33% of the quotations in there were sourced from the Bible. 33%. The second most quoted individual, I forget who it was, but he was only quoted about 8% of the time. So you're telling me that literally every third thing that people are saying is a Bible verse in drafting the Constitution? So being a Christian was a very important thing to our founding fathers. And our system of government would not work in a place that's not run by Christians. It just wasn't designed that way. We can pretend that it will, and unfortunately, we are more and more becoming a secular country, and I think we're starting to see the detriments of that. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. I didn't read the whole article. When I saw the headlines and I see them bashing Rick, I'm like, oh, this is good. Let's go, baby. I love that negative media started to fuel me eventually. It's kind of like makes me just, it makes me want to. We did it. Am I in the article? Nope. Dang. Just Rick is the ousted right-wing Texas politician. I'll read a little bit of it. Who hasn't held office since losing a Texas Supreme Court bid in 2010 and losing his seat on the Texas House of Representatives in 2003 is making waves again. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, like when you put your name in the hat, you can lose. It happens. And the other guy's last name was Green, and he only lost by a few points.
Lost by a small margin. He would have won if the other guy's name was differentiated at all.
He would have won. This time, though, it's not about blaming the left for the January 6th insurrection, which it is their fault, by the way, or for his legislation. Rather, he's looking to formally establish Constitution City, yeah, he is, at his Patriot Academy campus near Comfort, a camp for young conservatives criticized for its agenda deemed Christian nationalism. The point of the Patriot Academy, located right in between Fredericksburg and Comfort along US 87, is muddled on its website with a mix of constitutional defense, patriotism, and biblical worldview, which they put in quotes again, like that's a bad thing, language. Especially, it's a far right wing training ground founded by failed Texas Supreme Court candidate and former Texas Rep Rick Green. Also, incredible family man, husband, raised 4 beautiful kids who are living productive, adult, successful lives, entrepreneur, building several successful businesses in his career. Oh, by the way, attorney, constitutional attorney who knows the Constitution better than any rep in any state capital or DC. Heaven forbid that they talk about that. I think he got his MBA too. He graduated, FYI, whatever media outlet this is. He finished college, I believe, in 2 to 3 years. Did he get a degree in really young? His oldest son, who's now the executive director here at Patriot Academy, got a bachelor's degree at the age of 17. I could go on for days, but of course, they're not going to tell you anything good about him. They're just going to try to bash this entire mission. I'm going to have fun with this. Oh my gosh, I hate the media.
It's great.
It's in there. Patriot Academy has a bold mission to equip an educated generation of citizen leaders to champion the cause of freedom and truth in every sector of society as we help restore our constitutional republic and the biblical principles that cause a nation to thrive. The company website reads, explaining its our mission statement is in there. That's really Amen. Oh, I mean, I would say if there's one of the biggest wins I think we got from 2020 is legacy media is dead. Like nobody is paying attention, or if they do pay attention, they know it's crap. They know it's propaganda, which is a perfect segue for podcasts like this and other media outlets. If you don't, Rick is going live every Monday now at 6 Central Time in this studio, the Tavern, just like he used to do for Front Porch Live. I don't know about you guys. I missed Front Porch Live. I used to get on there on Tuesdays and ask him questions, and I love to hear his take on the day of the issues that were going on and how constitutionally, because if anybody knows whether or not something being done is constitutional, it's Rick Green, and he comments on it. So if you're not tuning into that on Mondays at 6 Central Time, he is live here in the Tavern, does the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like he used to on Front Porch Live, and you can get a chance to interact with him in the chat. If you have a question, I get people all the time asking me to, because they know I have access to Rick, which is arguable, actually, because, again, we need an air tag for him. But can you ask Rick this? You can get on Monday on YouTube, on Facebook, are we on TikTok too? I know they're on YouTube, they're on Facebook. I can't remember if they got on TikTok, but he's back to going live, so it's access to the public. That's the best way for you to catch him, and you can actually get a question answered. He'll answer you fast. Yes, he'll respond to that live chat faster, probably. And again, unless we get in there, he'll totally answer it. Yes, Media Matters is going down, I think, Liberty Lion. I think Media Matters is I've read, do you know anything about Media Matters? They're a left-wing lunatic, like Vice News. They've written, about Vice. They've all written horrible things about me. So I read somewhere that they're being taken down. Laura DeGede, I'll read the end of this as we wrap up. I do have a funny video for you guys this week. Of course, Jim Brewer, my favorite. We got that queued up. Laura Jadid with the New Republic described the Anatomy's constitutional defense course, which is incredible, by the way. If you are afraid of I came afraid of guns and left having a blast. I'm totally comfortable now. If my husband isn't home and somebody would try to break in, I feel confident I can protect my kids. And that's why I came to that class. That's the purpose of the course. We teach the biblical right of self-defense with Aaron Marshall, who I'm going to have next week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Don't miss it. The director of this constitutional defense program I'm going to interview. He did a fantastic presentation today in the legislative chamber on the biblical right of self-defense. So when churches and pastors come to us and say, "Why I don't want to support violence," I had a pastor once tell me, "Well, I'm a Quaker, and so we're peaceful, nonviolent people. We really don't agree with guns." And so I responded to her nicely and said, "Well, when a Quaker is being physically attacked or assaulted or Are they not allowed to defend themselves? And she really couldn't answer that question. So we do have a biblical right to self-defense. I'm going to have Aaron on next week, and he's going to explain that to be able to equip us, you and I, as the everyday citizen, to go out there and also share that message. Because admittedly, I was on the wrong side of the Second Amendment argument until 2020, until I got educated by Rick Green. I was that perfect person that would have seen the Matthew McConaughey on the White House when I think our fake president Biden was in office, and they brought him in after Uvalde. Do you remember that? They pulled him in so that we got to get control of these guns, and we can't have these shootings. They prey on emotions. It's all fear mongering. I would have been in the camp that said, yes, we definitely, who has to have an automatic rifle? There's really, it's doing more damage than good. Because I didn't understand. And once 2020 happened, of course, I got educated from Patriot Academy. And one of the stats that sticks out to me the most, I remember from Rick saying, is that if you have trained people on location, on a premise where a shooting breaks out, the odds of casualties happening go way, way, way down if you have people that are carrying their firearm and know how to use it. And so when you have to call 911, it takes time for the bus to get there. And so the statistics are astronomical in terms of how much longer it takes for them to get there and the likelihood of there being casualties. And when I understood that, I was like, it really isn't the gun doing the damage, is it? So we would love to have you down here for a constitutional defense course. We're going to be talking more about that. The coaches, we're going to plan another trip next week. Elias, you've taken constitutional defense. Talk a little bit from your perspective about what you got out of it. Why do you think our constitutional defense program is a good thing?
It's definitely necessary. I'm going to be a little bit corny here and quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right? A firearm. Okay. And originally from the Bible. So Tristan here just corrected me. Thank you. With great power comes great responsibility. And a gun has a lot of power, right? You have the power to end someone's life in that. And if you are going to assume responsibility for manipulating that tool, that you should have the absolute best training that you can have. So when I went to constitutional defense, my first time, I'd shot a gun a few times with my uncle. I'm just like your regular American that had shot a gun once or twice. Within 4 days, I was a very, very proficient shooter. Actually, I won the man-on-man competition the first time I was there. And it just gave me so much more confidence. And I came back the following year, sharpened my skills. And honestly, even though I've done it twice, I'd like to go again, because you could always keep learning and just, staying up to date.
I'm reading the rest of the article. I'm not going to comment because I get so ticked off when they're trying to, if you know Rick and you get close to him and you know his heart, he is not building this campus in any way to become wealthy. Nonprofits by nature are not designed to build wealth. Although I'm in favor of building wealth, that is not why they're doing this. And yet they've tried to take these numbers, which are incredible growth for Patriot Academy, that are going right back into the mission and the cause and the students. And they're trying to make it look like he's just doing it for money. And the guy could be a successful attorney. He has a law degree that he could be making a 7-figure yearly income if he chose to run a successful, which he would have been, law office, because attorneys charge, as I'm sure you know, Elias, like a ton of money. In fact, I want my oldest daughter, I'm trying to push towards a constitutional law attorney, because a lot of attorneys don't know. There's only, I believe, 3 law schools in the country right now that teach the Constitution when you go to get a law degree. How crazy is that? It's all court precedent. And so we need people to go into that sector in order to reshape the culture and get attorneys back to the Constitution. So if you have an interest in that, I recommend looking into it. I hope my oldest daughter, I want her to follow what the Lord's plan is for her. And selfishly, I want her to be a constitutional attorney, because when I, with Audit the Vote, started reaching out for estimates we wanted to file lawsuits of such and such, how much is that going to cost? I got bids up to $1,500 an hour. $1,500 an hour. So Rick Green could be making $1,500 an hour and be buku wealthy with a 7-figure income, but he's actually sacrificing by putting his time, effort, his talent into this campus to pour into the next generation. So I'm not going to get down a huge rabbit trail and get crazy fired up about how they criticized him, but our mission statement is in it, and that's all that counts, right? Final thoughts, Elias, anything you want to share, wisdom you want to impart on my audience, or what would you encourage them to do next? And we'll wrap it up with our Jim Brewer funny video.
Last words.
There's always an opportunity to make a difference. You just have to go ahead and take it. And the people over here at Patriot Academy will be more than happy to equip you with the intellectual tools that you need.
The other thing, the floods, and then Joel, cue up that video, we'll roll it, and then we'll call it a night. I want you guys back here next week to meet Aaron Marshall, director of the Constitutional Defense Program down here, who did a stellar private training lesson to my 11-year-old daughter, Juliet, when we were down here for a few weeks in July. My 11-year-old was able to shoot a gun for the first time, and she got a lesson from Aaron Marshall on the safety of it, how to respect the gun. And I have pictures. It was incredible. So I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast before we go to that. And I did it again. This means I need some sleep. I think I'm a little sleep deprived because the thoughts keep going one direction into the other. And yeah, exactly, Liberty Lion. It's not coming from USAID money. Rick is doing the real hard work of, right? Rick is doing the real hard work of fundraising, and it is, that's what the floods. And so he even at one point put a drop down menu because people were wanting to donate to the flood relief. And I don't know about you, but I've seen an awful lot of stuff about the Red Cross that I'm not quite sure if they're a good organization anymore. I don't know. But Rick took that on himself to say, we will make sure that these funds get allocated to the actual relief for the floods and what's going on instead of being laundered like USAID through Act Blue. And that was 35 minutes. The Kerrville, the floods, that horrific experience was just like 30 minutes from the campus. And so I'll leave it alone. Stop defending Rick. I'm not saying he's perfect, by the way. Again, we want an air tag for him and we could list some faults for you, but I won't. He's definitely not the man that article or Patriot Academy that article painted him to be. So Joel, let's cue up this video. I hope it brings you a laugh. I think this was Jim Brewer talking about propaganda. And if you're follow him and enjoy him, he does the devil horns and the TDS stuff. Let's get a good laugh. And I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. with Aaron Marshall. Go ahead, roll.
I grew up here. I know I lived in the Northeast all the way up until 2 years ago. You don't realize how it is up here. It's almost like they want us to fight. They want you to be scared, and they want you to fight. They want you to hate. You see it in everyone. People drive in, I hate these people, and that type of person. I hate this one, and I want to kill them, and I want to dang. Wait till we start rioting. We'll show you what's going on. Dang, you try to take away my God. I see it. They're shoving it in your face. Florida's like, first of all, I never understood when people have guns, I actually feel safer. I never understood that. I grew up in here, never had a gun. Petrified of guns. Petrified of guns. But I know if I'm in a place, no one has them, and some ding-a-ling just had a rough couple weeks in science class. And mom didn't check on him because he's been in his room, just eyes in there. What should I do next? Kill people? Should I wear this black hoodie and just stare at the computer? Hey, I don't know if I'm a boy. I may cut my penis off because nobody knows who I am. I'm just, I can kill things and I suck my soul. There is no God. There is no God. God doesn't exist. There's no spirit. We kill the animals. It's just, we need to take the guns away. We need to take some of the parents away.
I think I got to get in touch with Jim Brewer and see if he'll come do a ConDef class. How cool would that be? Oh, my dreams, they just go crazy overboard. Thank you guys for tuning in. We always appreciate your donations as well, going towards stopping the steal of the midterms in 2026. We are working hard on that in Pennsylvania. We've got an incredible poll watcher training program that I put together for 2024. We deployed in Allegheny County alone, stopped the steal there. We're hoping to roll it out statewide. And so we're preparing right now. We let them get away with it in 2020. I shouldn't say we let them, but they got away with it. We stopped it in 2024. We've got to stop it in the midterms before 2028 so President Trump can get the rest of the MAGA agenda through and we don't end up making him a lame duck president. So auditthevotepa.com/donations. Every $200 donation sponsors a poll watcher for us. So we appreciate everything that you can do towards that end. And also, if you're on my Substack, tonyshoop.substack.com, Lead with Your Strengths goes live and launches next Monday, August 18th, the four-year anniversary of me and my team having dinner with President Trump in Bedminster, New Jersey, live, just like this, Elias. I met with him and had a conversation with him the way you and I are. His eyes are blue. I will never forget sitting there and what that felt like with just, he was right there. That's crazy. And Monday, August 18th is the 4-year anniversary. We got to do that. And so that's the day that my handbook is dropping called Lead with Your Strengths, a survival guide for the grassroots patriot. I'm going to start scheduling workshops all across Pennsylvania where we show you how to use the guide. So we maximize our efforts. We minimize burnout. We're able to keep more volunteers because education is key. The fix is local and we have to stay in the fight. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week with Aaron Marshall, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Good night.